So I got to ask you, Luis, have you taken that jersey off since yesterday's press conference?
I don't want to take it off. I don't want to take it off.
Brodie, this has been such a whirlwind over the last few weeks. Take us through the process of hiring Luis as your manager.
Well, I think it goes back to the fall, where we had the opportunity to sit down with Luis multiple times. We got to see him in a different light, a different context to what we saw him last year as our quality control coach. And then when the events of the last week unfolded, it was a very quick and efficient process because we knew Luis was going to be the top of our candidate list. We brought him in. We sat him down with some new questions different than what he had last fall, and had 2 long sessions this week, 2 meetings, and by Wednesday afternoon we were working on making a deal, and we were excited to announce him officially yesterday.
A lot of the trend in hiring managers, especially first-time managers, has been guys coming off the playing field, guys coming down from the front office, but Luis has more of a traditional resume in that he managed for 8 years in the minor leagues. How much value did you place on that when you made the decision?
We put a ton of value. It was a huge decision-making factor. We mentioned yesterday that Luis's in-game decision-making is something that was very attractive to him. The fact that he was a homegrown manager. And I think in our game overall, we don't do enough work to develop our own talent from a coaching staff and manager's perspective. But he's a case study for how it's supposed to work, and he progressed each step of the way like our players did, and he's proven his ground and ready to take over on the big stage.
So Luis, what did you learn as a minor league manager that will help you manage the big league team?
Well, coaching. I mean, this is the first thing you learn in the minor leagues. It's coaching, relating to the players, developing players. And I think that always helps. I mean, developing it never stops. You're at a big league level, and that's something that I saw last year as a big league coach. You got to keep developing the players. You got to keep working with them. You got to keep relating with them. You got to keep working on the things they need to put them in a position to succeed. And I think that's something that I learned throughout the process, and it's brought me here.
Does the fact that you managed a lot of these players in the minor leagues work in your favor, do you think?
Absolutely. I mean, the relationships of knowing them and them knowing me back, that's always a plus. I mean, and I think it's going to help also for those, the new faces, the guys that you start learning, knowing for the first time. Like last year, I started knowing some of our experienced players, and we had a perfect bond as well.
When you started building your off-season plan, did you concentrate more on building on the second half, or did you go back and evaluate the whole season in terms of what you needed to do to make sure that you guys got off to a better start?
It's a great question, Gary. I think that it was a combination of those things. Even at the halfway point, as Luis knows, as a coaching staff, we brought the group together and tried to identify what went wrong in that first half and how could we make changes and improvements to it in the second half. So that process started even earlier than the off season, and it's continued. The work that these guys have been doing as a coaching staff in preparation for this year. We've had detailed player plans to make sure we can maximize the roster that we already had. And then we identified where we felt like our holes were, wanted to make sure we shored up not only the bullpen but also the starting rotation to add more quality pitchers and put us in a position where we can hit the ground running right out of the gate.
Now, how did that inform the decisions that you made this offseason in terms of the talent that you added?
Well, everybody saw the trade we made at the deadline last year, which really had two goals. First was to keep us in contention and put us, on our track to get into that wild card race in the second half of the year. But then it also fast forwarded what we expected this offseason to look like when we added Marcus Stroman. To be able to have Marcus be firmly entrenched into our rotation heading in the offseason, and then look to add Michael Wacha and Rick Porcello to give us what we feel like is one of the best rotations in baseball, one of the deepest rotations in baseball. So it was really part of our strategy. Add on to the fact when we had an opportunity to bring Brad Brock back and then to bring Dellin Betances into the fold, we felt like the combination of those moves to both our rotation and our bullpen put us in a tremendously positive spot.
Can you hang your hat on the fact that your bullpen just has to be better than last year based on the fact that
based on the rankings?
The fact that so many things went wrong last year, and these are talented guys who have it in them to be better. Do you look at it in those terms?
We have to look at it in a lot of terms. I know in your last segment, I heard the guys talking about just the volatility that exists in the bullpen year over year. So that's part of it. From a modeling standpoint, we do see our guys having a progression rather than a regression, but we're not relying on that. It's not a hope and a prayer. The pitching coach that we added this offseason, Jeremy Hefner, along with Jeremy Accardo, who's returning as our pitching strategist and assistant pitching coach, and of course Ricky Bonas. We're in a position where we have been working really hard, and Luis could probably touch on it more, but I mean, our group, and Jeremy specifically, has gone to Puerto Rico, worked with Edwin. Our health and performance and nutritionists have gone there, so that there's really a 360-degree comprehensive plan to put him and Familia on the right track to have a positive start and hopefully put last year's performances in the rearview mirror.
You brought in 2 quality starters in Michael Wacha and Rick Porcello, so now you've got basically 6 guys for a 5-man rotation. How will you evaluate in spring training what your best rotation will be?
Now, I mean, everyone's going to get their chance, obviously. I mean, we've, like Brodie said, the staff has been working really hard in the offseason to set up a plan. They've been very specific. They've been visiting the players, communicating with players. And, our pitching coach, Jeremy Hefner, Jeremy Accardo, he's assistant and strategist. He's helped a lot to put plans together, and they've been in communication with them just to see their progression going towards spring training. So we want to wait until we get there, and we're going to see how everything unfolds. And I mean, that's what's going to give us the idea of how this rotation is going to work.
Luis, you've been around Major League Baseball really since you were a little kid, right? Watching your dad manage with the Expos and with the Giants, and your brother in the big leagues, and you had a minor league career before you joined this team. Can you talk a little bit about your family and the influence that they've had on you in terms of your career getting you to this point?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, being born in a baseball family, and since my understanding, it's all been baseball talks. I mean, it never stopped, and it never stopped still. So, any given situation, before signing in professional baseball, which I only played in the minor league levels, but there were always talks, there were always topics brought from different situations and how to go about, your life, because baseball's life in our family. And, I was raised on that, through that. And, then through my coaching career, I still got the guidance of my family. And we were always very close, and we were always interchanging ideas. And just my own experiences, and along with the lessons that I was getting from my father, my brother, and the rest of my siblings that are involved in baseball as well, it gave me that shape. It gave me that shape. And then coming to this family, the Mets family, it was like a perfect combination of things. And I'm very proud of my family. Like I've mentioned, I'm always going to mention, we're blessed to be in baseball, and I'm blessed to be with the Mets for 14 years.